how long was it before you reached out to me? And she said, 1 year minimum. When you look yourself in the mirror, you're going to really love the work that you do with individuals more than taking a look at your sales sheet and seeing your conversion percentage. In this video, we're going to talk about the truth of the coaching industry that very few people are discussing. If you don't understand the industry, and you don't understand the people, and you don't understand the changes in the behavior of the folks that are looking for coaching, then you simply can't win. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Sean Smith. I've been coaching in this industry for over 15 years. Man, I've seen everything. We've made millions and millions of dollars, and I want to share with you the good, the not so good, and where all the opportunities are in this industry, plus what to avoid. And let me tell you, a lot of people are being attracted to the shiny objects because they sound good, and they're dead-end roads, I promise you. Now make sure you watch all the way to the end to get the entire conversation, because you never know what that nugget is gonna be that you needed to hear. In this video, I wanna teach you what I know you need to succeed as a coach. So in this video, I'm gonna mostly dive into three things. I'm gonna talk about the market, the coaching market. I'm gonna talk about marketing in the coaching market. So we're gonna dive into what is no longer working, what is working, how to get people's attention, what are the new rules of engagement, and where are the opportunities now? And then finally, I just wanna give a message to you and my advice for you in this market. If you're interested in coaching and you're serious about coaching, then this is the stuff that you need to know. If you don't understand what the market is doing, you don't understand what the people in the market are demanding and what they're no longer interested in, then you can't win. You can't win in a market that you don't understand. So for the people that take the time to learn this stuff and apply a lot of these things that I'm going to be talking about, you have a chance. And for the people that don't, you don't. I mean, that's the simplicity of it. You've got to really understand the market. And the thing is about the coaching market specifically, competition is fierce. You know, online marketing has changed society because it's changed the way that humans think. It's literally changed the way that our brain operates. And the coaching market is a market that doesn't have any regulations. So there are no rules. There's no legal board that says you can do this and you cannot do that. So it's basically a free-for-all, which makes it a lot more challenging for a lot of people who get overwhelmed with all this information. And it makes it a lot more challenging for people that want to be coaches because there's not a specific path to follow. So we have to overcome that overwhelm with simplicity. And the overwhelm is exponentially growing. That's the challenge. People are flooding into the coaching market because for many years now, people have been saying, you know, the coaching market is ripe. There's a lot of money to be made in the coaching market. And they're right. There's a lot of people paying a lot of money to do this work full-time or half-time or to make $10 million, whatever their goals are. There are a lot of people that want to do this. So there's a lot of desire in the market. But with all of that desire and all of that opportunity comes a massive amount of competition. And there's way more competition nowadays than there was just even a few years ago, but definitely 10 years ago. I've been coaching for 15 years. The competition that's alive now, especially online, compared to back then, I mean, it's night and day. And I'm going to share some numbers with you a little bit later on. Some transparent numbers with you about what kind of engagement we're getting, what kind of percentages we're getting, conversions, buying percentages, just so you can have an idea of what's happening in the market. Now, I'm not here to say that I understand everybody in the market and everything about the market. I'm obviously just able to give you my perspective. And my perspective is really people-to-people coaching. To make a distinction for this conversation, there are essentially two types of marketers. There are vendors and there are non-vendors. Vendors are people or companies that teach coaches how to be successful in the market. So they are selling to the coaches who are then going to build a business. And then there are non-vendors who don't want to sell any kind of vending product. They don't want to sell a how to succeed in the coaching market product. So their primary client is not coaches. The primary client is non-coaches. So those are the two main different kinds of animals here. Neither one of them is better than the other. They're just different. And what you need to know is which one you are, because whatever one you are will determine how you operate in this market. So there's no values judgment on that. It's just a distinction. The other distinction that I want to make is the difference between informational coaching and transformational coaching. Again, both are legitimate. There's nothing wrong with either one of them. Informational coaching is more how-to information. I'm going to give you information about how to save money on your taxes, how to flip houses in real estate, how to build DIY projects, or whatever the how-to information is. And then there's transformational coaching, and that's just a little bit more messy. That's dealing with humanity a little bit more. That's dealing with improving people's happiness or joy or relationships. It's less tangible than informational coaching. Both of them are legitimate. There's nothing wrong with either one of them. Neither one of them is better than the other, but you just have to know who you are so that you can follow the right game plan for you. So let's talk about the market in general first, the industry, the coaching industry in general. And I want to start out with a little bit of tough love, okay? Because what's happening is there are rules of the game. There are rules online. There are rules in social media. And some of these are technical rules, and some of these are just more energetic rules. Energetic rules meaning you've got to go through a lot of stuff personally before you achieve a certain level of competency or certainty. And then there's technical rules like YouTube will only show your videos if these conditions are met, right? But there are rules of the industry in 2020, and they're going to continue on this path going forward. And if you want to be an influential leader, if you want to do this thing called coaching, especially if you want to go online and do this thing called coaching, you have to understand what you're entering. You're entering a playground that is massively competitive, that has thousands and thousands and thousands of people spending millions and millions and millions of dollars to understand and win the competition. And if you don't want to play by those rules, then don't enter that playground. And what I see a lot is people that get frustrated because they don't like the rules. They don't like the fact that people aren't as engaged as they used to be. They don't like the fact that YouTube doesn't show their videos to everyone, or Facebook doesn't show their posts to everyone. I have administrators in my groups on Facebook that don't get notifications for the group when I post, and they've put all the notifications on and they still can't get notifications because we're at the mercy of the platform owners. So there are rules to this game, and you can't change what somebody else is controlling. You also can't shortcut what's required for yourself. So the energetic rules that I was referring to are about growth. They're about your influence. They're about your persuasiveness. They're about your certainty. They're about your leadership. And you can't shortcut your way into leadership and expect people to follow you because you haven't built the muscles that are attractive to people that need that kind of leadership in this particular context. So you have to earn your followers. You have to earn your success. You have to earn your stripes. And the reality is, what it takes to earn the stripes in the eyes of the people online nowadays is infinitely higher than what it took 5 years ago. And because of the way our society works, what it takes internally for us to feel good about ourselves, to not compare ourselves to everybody and their mom and feel like we're just the worst person in the market compared to all these other amazing people, that's even harder now. So we can't even convince ourselves of our own value as much as we could before, because there's just so much noise in the market. So if you're the kind of person that wants to just sort of toe dip out there, that wants to just throw a video or two out there, that wants to just post a little bit on Facebook, and you expect a lot of people to come running like they did when Facebook first started, or like they did when some of these platforms were first introduced, then my advice to you is somehow get your DeLorean, find your flux capacitor, and go back to 2011. That's the only way that those rules apply. They just don't apply anymore. And here's the thing. The longer it takes for you to implement what you've been learning, the further behind you're going to be, because all of this momentum continues to move and it's exponentially increasing. Now, I'm not saying that to scare any of you and get you to think, well, you'll never be able to do this. You absolutely will. Stick around with me. You absolutely will. If you understand what's happening, you'll see the opportunities. And rather than competing against the people with the massive nuclear weapons online, you'll be able to find your place in the world, your place in the market, and do incredibly well, feeling really good, making some amazing impact on people's lives. But you have to understand the playground in order for you to find your area of it. So society nowadays is guarded. Society nowadays is driven by intellectual and digital, well, I'm going to say digital connection and intellectual navigation. Society is being pulled away from themselves through digital connection. So it gives us this illusion of connection, and we are connected digitally. I mean, we can get any amount of information like that, right? Just go to Google and you can find almost anything in seconds. And if you can't find it in seconds, just a few minutes will get you access to almost all information out there because it's all connected. But because we're placing so much value on our digital connection, we are not realizing how little value we are placing and the net effect of the digital connection, what it's having on our personal connection. So we have a lot more connection at a foundational level with ourselves and with other people because we have so much more connection with information, with the digital interwebs out there. And because people now have more connection to everything, we are exposed to everything good and bad exponentially more than we once were. And what that has done is that has caused people to be exposed vulnerably and being taken advantage of a lot more than 20 years ago because they have access to everything, right? And so with that exponential increase to all the digital connection, humans are less connected to themselves and actually less connected to each other because we've started to shrink. And we're shrinking because this is our domain of safety. This is our domain of trust. This is our domain of control. And so the world, in my opinion, is becoming more and more separated energetically at a deeper human or spiritual level, while it's becoming exponentially more connected at a digital level. So what we need for stability in today's world is not more rules of how to operate and how to navigate. What we need is deeper roots into ourselves. We need rooted flexibility. Think about a hurricane, right? A hurricane can come through and tear down a bunch of buildings. The trees that are rooted and that can flex a little bit, those will remain standing because the hurricane can come through and whip all the structures, but that tree is rooted and it's also alive. It's fighting for its life to some degree, and the winds can blow the buildings down a lot easier than they can uproot the trees. So I want you to think of that analogy when we take a look at the chaos or the trauma or the conflict and all the separation that's in our society. The deeper the roots you have, the more stable you will be. And then we need to provide that for other people. We need to help other people find their own stability inside of themselves to deal with the same things that I'm talking about. So there are three main things that have gone away or decreased significantly because of what's happening in our society. Those are attention, trust, and engagement. So people are giving less attention nowadays because they've been hyper targeted for years and years now. People are seeing ads everywhere. They're seeing ads on their phone. They're being chased by marketing. If you've ever typed something in on your phone and then opened up a browser in your computer, you probably saw an ad based on the thing that you just typed in. That's technology nowadays, and it'll never go away. They're literally chasing us with the advertising, which is great to some degree and not so great to another degree. But what it's causing is people are being bombarded so much with all this targeting messages that we've started to, by default, not pay attention. We don't want to pay attention because there's just too much out there. We can't look at every single ad. We can't watch every single commercial. We can't click through to see if every single thing is for us, and we don't want to waste time. So we just guard ourselves against all these time-wasting, super aggressive tactics. So people's attention is a lot lower now than it ever was. When they do have attention, when they do give their attention to something, because they've probably been taken advantage of online somewhere, they have less trust. So if they pay attention in a guarded way. Like I'm going to you can't see my feet now, but I'm just going to like inch towards you to see if this is legit. Is this real? Is this legitimate? But I've still got one foot on the ejection button, right? Like I can just go back and retreat back into my safety at the very first sign that this might not be legitimate, that this might not be real. So people's trust is lower than it ever was. And because of all of that, their engagement is a lot lower, right? You can't just get people's attention and all of a sudden have them comment like you could once upon a time, or have them share your stuff like you could once upon a time. So now we, in the coaching market, we have to deal with that. So how do we combat that? There are 7 things that we need to do to get back people's attention, trust, and engagement in that order. Attention, trust, and engagement. 7 things. The first thing is transparency. People are tired of fake stuff. Simple. Be transparent. The second thing is honesty. People are tired of being lied to. So be honest. In the coaching world, if you have the ability to help somebody improve their life, that's good enough. That story is good enough. You don't have to embellish it. You don't have to attach any kind of fake tactics on top of that. Helping people improve their lives in areas that are important to them, that's a good enough story. Be honest. Don't promise people that you're going to teach them how to make $1 million in 90 days or how to immediately send some text message and have girls or men falling all over you because you just saw a text message, right? There's so many of these microwave magic bullets being sold out there. And it's because we keep showing interest with our attention and all those things. But people are tired of that stuff. And the next time any one of those magic bullet approaches works will be the first time they've ever worked. And people are tired now of continually getting all the same stuff and then being disappointed by it. So just be real. If you're real and tell people that you can help them feel more connected in their marriage, that's a pretty good story. So don't just try to embellish with all the marketing tactics. Number 3 is authenticity. And that's really just being you, who you really are. Don't try to be like somebody else. Number 4 is vulnerability. Vulnerability, and you can see that all of these kind of feed into each other and cycle off of each other. Vulnerability is without protection. That's essentially what it is. When we show up with protection, when we show up trying to fend people off, when we show up trying to pretend that we are better than we are, different than we are, we're putting on all this armor. And we need to remove the armor if we want other people to remove theirs. So that's what vulnerability is. And vulnerability isn't a skill, it's just permission. You have to give yourself permission to be vulnerable. And vulnerability is incredibly contagious, and it's disruptive, and it's short-circuiting to people. Like, vulnerability almost cannot be ignored. And when you add your vulnerability online in a way that people have never seen before, that's massively attractive. Number 5 is value. Give people good stuff. In the coaching world now, I believe that we're moving toward a demand for experiences, not expectations. What people have been buying for the longest time is expectations. If you buy this thing, you will experience this or get those results. But we haven't experienced anything because we have to buy it first. And so many people have experienced disappointment when the promises aren't upheld. But if you give people experiences before the purchase, now they can't deny that you actually help them feel a different way. And then sales becomes a lot easier when you just invite people to continue the experience with you that they already have. It's much easier to do that than it is to convince somebody that if they buy this thing, they will have this experience. But that requires you to actually have value. I'm going to get into that. But you've got to be valuable. You've got to have the certainty that you're going to invite people into your living room, if you will, and give them something that can fundamentally shift them in some way. Number 6 is certainty. It's what I just said. You've got to believe that you can do this. You've got to believe in the power of people changing. You've got to believe in whatever skills you've acquired, and you've got to believe in your ability to lead people into that transformation. And then number 7 is consistency. Oh, this is a huge one. Most people shy away from consistency because of their expectations. If you do a thing, you put a video out there, you write a blog post, you do a Facebook Live, you do whatever it is that you're doing, and you don't get the expected results, which will almost always be so unrealistic. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous most of the time, which is fine. We're ambitious, right? That's okay to go out there with some expectations and the expectations not be met. But if the expectations are not met, and you have a problem with that, internally is where the problem usually is, well, then it's going to be harder for you to get back up and do it again. So it's going to be very difficult for people to stay consistent when their expectations are not being met. And the expectations are based on 2011 rules, or they're based on these fake promises, or they're just based on comparison. Like, they're based on this thing that we've constructed. They're not based on real experience. So when you're not consistent, 2 things happen. You don't build the habits that are required for you to earn your leadership, for you to earn your value. And your most valuable customers, your most valuable seekers, the people who are seeking the knowledge that you have, won't have enough information to actually take action. I did an event a long time ago in Denver, and there was this relatively small hotel that we did this event in. So they didn't have like a big convention center or anything like that. You couldn't really tell where all the meeting rooms were. But I had found out ahead of time where our meeting room was that we were all meeting. And they told us that you go into the lobby, you take a left, you go down the hallway, you take a right, and then you take a left and you'll find the meeting room. Well, I go into the hallway, I take a left, and I go down this hallway that doesn't look like it's the right hallway, but it's the only one there to my left. So I start going down, and all there are sleeping rooms. And as I'm going down this hallway, I'm dragging all my stuff. I got all my equipment and stuff. I'm going down this hallway thinking, this isn't the right thing. There's no way this is the right one. So when I get about halfway through the hallway, I turn around, decided this is not the right place, and I go back to the counter. I say, here's who I am. I'm looking for this room. And she goes, okay, you got to go back down the hallway that you just came from, go all the way down to the end. And then there's another hallway to the right, and you make a right, you go all the way down that one. Then there's a turn to the left. Your room is right there. So I go back down the hallway, same one that I was just in, and I go all the way to the end this time. And then the next hallway shows up. But when I was in the middle of the hallway, I couldn't see the entrance. I couldn't see the turn. All I saw was all these sleeping rooms, and my expectations started wearing on me. My judgment started wearing on me. I started thinking, this is stupid. I'm wasting time. I don't want to waste all this time. So I went back. So because I didn't want to waste time, I wasted probably 4 times as long as if I would have just kept going with the instructions that I was already given. Now, the cool thing about this was so fascinating. I told that story in the room, and most people had done the exact same thing. And then it became this recurring theme for the rest of the week. Go to the end of the hallway. We're not far enough down the hallway to see the next step. Now, what was interesting is when we started thinking, why did you stop? Or we started discussing, why did you stop? And why did you stop? And why did you stop? There were a few different reasons why we stopped, but they were all based on judgments around something not being right. So we all, at various places in that hallway, stopped when we were on the right path and went back and took way too long. Or we ended up giving more energy. So what happens when we have these expectations of what it's supposed to be, most of us stop before we've gone far enough to see the next opportunity, or before we've gone far enough to actually develop the skill that will command the results that we're looking for. But until we have those skills that will command the results, or until we've gone far enough so that we can see the next opportunity, we can't win. So we have to be consistent. And in today's world, with the lower attention, with the lower trust, and with the lower engagement, your most valuable clients will quite often lurk for a long time. They will lurk. They will not immediately engage. They will not immediately comment. They will not share a video. Listen, if your video is making them feel a little uncomfortable about themselves, they will probably not share that thing and comment right away so that everybody else knows how uncomfortable they are. But if you keep going, if you keep giving them things to engage with, if you keep giving them experiences, then at some point in time, they will engage with you. If they are meant for you and you are meant for them, they will engage with you. But your most valuable clients, my experience tells me, your most valuable clients need you to be consistent so that you prove to them you're not one of the other things that has disappointed them. When people have been traumatized in relationships, when people have trust issues, you can't regain their trust in a moment. You can only regain their trust with consistency. We need to do that in our marketing. One of my best clients, who is now actually on our team, many of you know her, Michelle, she's The content manager for my company, I just asked her today, how long was it before you reached out to me? And she said 1 year minimum. 1 year. She looked at every possible thing she could find. She searched my name. She went through every page on my website. She watched every video. She read every article. She read my About Me story. She looked at every possible thing she could find for a year before she reached out. I just got an email 2 days ago. Somebody said the exact same thing. I've been watching your videos for a year, and I finally decided to take a jump. Wow. So a couple things happened. Number one, it confirmed this lurker theory. But you know what was really cool for me to assess? I have a year's worth of content. Like, I've been doing this consistently for a long time. People can actually binge my content. That's freaking awesome. But I didn't do all of that in 2 weeks. I didn't do all of that in a few months. My first video on YouTube is from 2010, I believe. Consistency, habits, rhythm, and you've got to find your own voice. You got to find your own creativity. All of that requires consistency. Most people don't have their creativity channel open because they're judging the hallway. They're judging that what they're writing is not good enough. They're judging themselves on camera. They're judging how their voice sounds on audio. Great. That doesn't mean you should stop. That means you got some work to do. That's all it means. But here's the thing. Most people are trying to get over their self-hatred and self-judgment before they create a bunch of stuff. I'm telling you, it's the exact opposite. You cannot get over your self-judgment without creating a bunch of stuff. It's a tapering down process, I promise you. I've done thousands and thousands of videos, thousands of hours of audios. Thousands. I still have it show up every now and then, but it's tapered off so much. It's a tapering process that requires motion in order for you to experience what you have to experience and then turn the camera on again or do another blog post again. Creativity is an animal that your intellect doesn't understand. Your intellect thinks you got to be ready before you go do the thing. And if that's the way you approach your creativity and your content, you'll never be ready, because you don't have any measurement to tell you that you're ready. And then if you toe dip your way out there and just try one thing, you're definitely going to get feedback that nobody gives a damn about what you're doing. Because look at so-and-so does a Facebook Live and she has like 93 views. I did a Facebook Live and I only had like 4. So it must be because I'm not good enough. That's the script that most people are dealing with. I was talking to somebody the other day. She goes, I do Facebook Live. I only get like 3 or 4 views. So I pulled out my phone and I said, do you know how many friends I have? And I said, I got like at the time, like 4,995 friends. Here's my last Facebook Live, 7 views. And I was doing him over and over and over again. And she goes, really? You only had 7? Yes. Like, it's your expectations of what it's supposed to be that's causing the misery and causes most of us to stop. But what I want you to think about, not just that process that I'm telling you is the required process. I want you to think about your lurker out there, your seeker out there who needs you to do another video, who needs you to do another blog article, who needs you to try one more time, who might not resonate with the way you said it this time, but the way you say it 2 months later, once it's in your body, 2 months later, after 2 months of activities, not just 2 months on the calendar, but 2 months in the work, now it lands. Or now maybe your certainty level attracts her at a much deeper place. And now she comments and makes herself known. So most people stop before they hit that clicking point and stop before they get valuable to other people. Your value requires consistency. There's just no two ways around that. So now let me dive into what's not working so well and what is working so well, or what is working nowadays. What's not working all that well is anything that's not novel anymore. Facebook is not novel. Instagram is not novel. Periscope is not novel. Live videos are not novel anymore. Webinars are not novel anymore. Email marketing is not novel anymore. I'm not saying they don't work. They don't work as well as they used to. So if you go in with those expectations of what they're supposed to do, you're going to be highly disappointed, especially if you're not a salesperson selling vending type products, right? A lot of people jump to buy the thing that's on discount just now. Only right now. I was just on a website earlier today, a few hours ago. And I only have 8 minutes to purchase this thing that's on a 90% discount. And I know I'm going to click the link later on, and it's going to be the same website that's going to give me another 8 minutes. But those tactics can produce quick action. But what I want you to think about is, what's your long-term game? It's really like dating. Is your intention one-night stands, or is your intention a relationship? If your intention is to get a one-night stand, right? If your intention is to get in their wallet as fast as you can, there are certain things you can sell. There are certain tactics that they will respond to, but that won't create a relationship. If you're more interested in a relationship, you're probably not going to get lucky on the first night or the first engagement, or maybe even the first several collisions that you have with this particular person. But when they buy into you because of your consistency, the loyalty that they will have and the certainty that they will have in you because it's taken place over a longer period of time, that's priceless. But we have to understand we're in this for the long game, not just try to get as much money in as fast of a time as we possibly can. Unless that's working for you. If it's working for you, then don't pay attention to anything that I'm saying. Don't change anything that's working. If it's not working for you, then assess what it is that you're following. So I looked at some numbers of mine earlier today. In 2014, I had an email list of about 14,000. And I did a launch. And over the course of this 2-week launch sequence, we got about 2,000 webinar registrations. Okay, 14,000 list, 2,000 webinar registrations, which is about 14% conversion from people on the list to webinar. Then we got exactly 512 sales of a $200 product. So it was over a $100,000 launch. 512 sales. A few years later, I decided I want to do the same thing. I went in and sold a version of the same product. It was better than it was 3 years prior, and I sold it to the same people. It was not the exact same people, but the same market, right? Our list had gotten to about 25,000. So now we're dealing with a lot more people, and everything in my business is better. I'm better. Team is better. Websites are better. Everything is better. So I figure, worst case scenario, we can duplicate what we did before, right? So we have 24,000 people. We got 1,400 webinar registrations from those 14 or 24,000 people. So email list went up 10,000, webinar registrations went down 600. Now we ended up doing some Facebook advertising and we got about 1,000 registrations from Facebook advertising, but the first launch, we didn't do any Facebook advertising. So I'm just giving apples to apples comparison. So from our email list, we had 1,400 webinar registrations, which is a 5% conversion. And then we had 175 sales. So email list goes up 10,000. Registrations go down 600. Sales go from 512 to 175. We're going in the opposite direction here. Then 2 years later, last year, we did a webinar. Our email list is now 30,000 in this particular niche. We got 184 webinar registrations. So we go from 2,000 registrations to 1,400 to 184. Virtually following the same processes, the same launch sequence, the same number of emails. So much of it is identical, actually. And we ended up getting 20 sales on a highly, highly discounted rate. So I'm not saying that across the board everybody's experiencing that, but we've looked into our data and we've asked people why they're not opening emails anymore. We've asked people why they're not buying anymore. And so we've studied our market trying to figure out the buying patterns. And the thing that I want you to understand is we essentially went from 512 sales to 20, which is, what is that? It's 4%. 4% of the sales, basically. When the email list almost tripled, well, no, more than doubled. 14,000 to 30,000, a little bit more than doubled. So the email list doubles, the sales plummet by 25 times. Right? So 25 times less with, let's just call it twice as much. Twice as many people, 25 times less sales. And all the engagement metrics all the way through, the number of emails that are being opened, the number of clicks, the number of registrations, the number of attendees, the number of purchases, all of them are going exponentially down. It's just the way it is. Why? Because this is only 5 years, you guys. This is only 5 years. Because over the last 5 years, the amount of competition has skyrocketed. The amount of overwhelm has skyrocketed. The amount of trust has lowered. All the things I've been talking about has influenced every piece of the chain to decrease because we were doing it the same way. That was my mistake. Doing it the same way. When the market had evolved for 5 years, and I took the 2014 approach and hoped that it would get somewhere close the 2019 results, right? Let me say that again. I thought and hoped the 2014 approach would work in 2019. That was my mistake. So if we keep doing the things over and over and over again, when the market evolves, it's going to evolve beyond those processes. So if you're getting good at things that worked in 2016, by the time you implement them, some of them might be obsolete, like literally obsolete, right? Facebook business pages nowadays have almost zero value. Why? Facebook's not going to show your post on your business page because they want you to pay for it. In 2014, I could put a post up on my business page and almost everybody would see it. But now I put a post up on my business page. I just checked the other day, like I think it was 0.05% of our 30,000 fans saw the post. Like it's just the way the game is because we're dealing with all these algorithms, right? And here's what we got to understand. The algorithms are based on clickbait. Facebook wants you to be on Facebook. Instagram wants you to be on Instagram. YouTube wants you to be on YouTube. Why? Because they are not making money from people paying them as a consumer. They're making money from people paying them as a marketer, as an advertiser. Therefore, if I can convince YouTube, let's say, that I have a community and I'm going to give you 10,000 eyeballs, YouTube takes that community and sells it to somebody else who wants to advertise to my community. That's why you see all the sponsored ads on YouTube. Facebook does the same thing. Instagram, not the exact same way, but they need us on their platform so that their platform is valuable. So why is that important to you to understand? If you post a silly cat video where the little kitten goes up for the ball of string and falls backwards and then falls off the couch and everybody loves it, they hit like and they share it to the Facebook algorithms, that's engagement. But if you post a video that causes people to contemplate who they are in their life and where they're going and whether they want to make some changes, they're probably not going to like it immediately and send that thing away. That video might as well have not existed according to the algorithms. So, Facebook wants us to get clicks. YouTube, same thing. All these platforms want us to essentially produce clickbait so that they have sellable eyeballs. They have a sellable audience. If I watch your video and don't do anything with it, to the algorithms, that video didn't have any impact. It didn't have any effect, and it certainly didn't benefit them. So the reason this is so critical to understand is if you try to win the rules of the algorithms, now I'm not saying it's not important to understand them. Absolutely, I want you to understand them. This is more about your expectation management. If you understand that you're not trying to put out a video that's immediately going to go viral, unless your whole game is to make money on ads, then go ahead and do that. But if you're wanting to deliver content, you can't play by the algorithm rules that all these other people are competing against and then judge your video according to the value of it against these other baby videos and cat videos and funny videos and all the things that are clickbait. And in clickbait, I'm not meaning that they're fake or anything like that. Clickbait a lot of times is a label for falseness, right? Like, click on this and I'm going to give you something else, almost like a bait and switch. That's not how I'm using it right now. I'm just using it as engagement bait, let's call it. So your video that's delivering a different message than the engagement bait that's just getting people to laugh and share, you can't compare the two and then judge your video as not valuable because you're not getting the engagement that other people's videos are getting. You have to understand there are rules to be played and there are ways around those rules or ways to use those rules for you. And if you have a video that doesn't have a ton of views, but it speaks to the right audience, you can have a lot more impact and make more money off of a video that only has a few hundred views than somebody's video who has 10,000 views. So these are the things that we have to understand in today's world if we're going to play the online game. And wishing it were different actually doesn't change anything. So all the stuff that's not novel is not working anymore. So what I believe to be true is the next novelty is going to be vulnerability. It's not that we're using the platforms, it's how we're showing up on the platforms. That's going to be the new novel. So that we might have a bunch of people on Facebook Live, but only these two are real. We might have a bunch of people with all the things on the menu, but only a few of them actually grab me by the heart. That's the new novelty, not the platform anymore. And when your business is based on a platform, you're unstable. I mean, think about all the people that built their platforms teaching people how to gain likes on their Facebook fan page. And then Facebook changed the algorithms. Their whole business is now completely obsolete. Right? You can be the absolute best VHS tape producer, probably going to be out of business because nobody values it anymore. So when you're dependent on a platform, you're inherently unstable. When your dependency, your value is found in yourself and found in your roots, Now you can use all the platforms as an extension of your value, but your value is not found in the platform. Hopefully that's making sense, that distinction that I'm making. So a lot of people are placing too much value in the rules of the platforms or the marketing templates. And as soon as those marketing platforms or people are just tired of those templates are gone, there's no substance to take to a different room of the house. But so many people are just trying to find their value in these rules, in how to market, instead of finding the value in themselves. So what is working for people that aren't the hardcore salespeople vending to the industry? What's working for the people that are not like that, for the teachers, is foundational stuff. Blogs, books, YouTube. I think if I could predict the future, I think YouTube is the place to be online. YouTube is the place where teachers can build classrooms. And understand that YouTube is a search engine. It's not a social media platform. Technically, maybe it's considered social media, but Facebook and Instagram, those are scrolling platforms. You get on Facebook and you're scrolling. You get on Instagram and you're scrolling. You get on Pinterest and you're scrolling. Pinterest, not as much. But people go on these platforms and they're scrolling. They're not searching. So if you're getting in front of scrollers, the way you have to get their attention is different than if you put yourself in front of searchers. And the things that will get the scrollers to engage usually have to be crazy claims, like lose a bunch of weight by eating more pizza. What? Click on that one, because they're not searching for anything. But the people that find videos on YouTube are the people that type stuff in. How to whatever. They're searching. They're in student mode. They're not in scrolling mode. So my message for all of you teachers is to build a classroom. Don't compete against the salespeople by building a boiler room. Because if you try to build the boiler room and you try to follow the sales tactics, but that's not aligned with who you are, you're never going to commit. And if you do and you succeed out of alignment, then that's not good either. That's actually maybe even bigger failure. So it's not that any of these tactics don't work. And a lot of the things that I believe most teachers need to do, a lot of the visible people are telling you not to do, because you can't scale your business that way. It takes too long. You don't want to talk to people one-on-one. You're just wasting a bunch of time. So they're convincing us that the way to build a business fast is to do it with these tactics. But if you have the tactic to build a business fast and you're not following the tactic, how fast is your business building? It's not at all, because you're not taking action. So the whole thing is, what's going to produce action? And what I'm telling you is, teachers need to teach, not sell. Salespeople need to sell, not teach. They are both legitimate paths, but you have to pick the one that's right for you. So what's working for teachers is the foundational stuff. Books are even more credible now than they were 10 years ago, in my opinion, because people have been bombarded with all the online sales courses and they're doing it the microwave way, and people don't see the value in it anymore, as much at least. So books, I think, are more valuable than they were. And people know if you sit down to write a book, you put a lot of work and effort into this. You get a lot more credibility points than if you put together an online course. Even if your online course is deep and very extensive, it just doesn't have the same kind of feel as a book does. And a book can get you so many places, way more than an online course does. So it's the foundational content that I suggest all the teachers follow, but you have to be willing to unlock your creative channel. You have to be willing to do that work. You have to be willing to manage the expectations, because this path is the relationship path. It's not the one-night stand dating path. This path takes a little bit different intentions for you. It takes a little bit different commitment. It takes different expectations. It takes different actions. But for most of you, that's your path, because that's the one that you're going to follow. And that's the one that's going to give you the most amount of value, not just to other people, but to yourself. When you look yourself in the mirror, you're going to really love the work that you do with individuals more than taking a look at your sales sheet and seeing your conversion percentage. For most of you, you're going to find more impact in the human connection than in the business building. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, but most of you don't operate that way. If you did, then all of these mechanics and processes will have already worked. So you've got to find what works for you. And the other thing that's working inside of all that content is specificity. It's not only working, it's a demand nowadays, right? You go to Netflix, you go to YouTube, you go to any of these subscription kind of places or places where people can binge content. They're constantly being given things that the platform knows they're interested in based on previous searches, based on previous purchases. So when you do your content, you've got to be specific. You've got to really speak to individual people, because it's individual people on the other end of the camera or on the other end of the computer that are reading, listening to, or watching your stuff. So the more specific you can be, the better, which means you've got to really dive into the individual desires of the people that are out there looking for you. Now, the way to do that is you have to understand your own value. You have to understand who you are and be real, right? Like the unconventional approach, the unprofessional approach is actually more attractive to the right person than the right professional approach is. If you're quirky, be quirky. Highlight your authenticity, because one of the ways to attract attention is to be different. So if you try to be like somebody else, you're actually making it harder for people to pay attention to you. But if you have the guts to be authentically you, you're making it easier for people to go, whoa, I haven't seen this person before. And the brain neurologically actually cannot ignore something it hasn't seen before. So the more distinct and unique and different you are, the more attention you will command, because you're giving them something that they haven't seen before. And when you do it with the vulnerability and the consistency and all the things that I talked about earlier, now you can start to build more of a following of people that really, really want to dive into your material. So I've already talked about a lot of these things that I have left in the notes. The rules of engagement, I think I've really highlighted those. The rules of engagement are different because of the lack of trust and all the bombardment and all the things that people are dealing with. The main thing that I want you to I already said this, but I want to highlight is long game versus short game, relationship versus one night stand. The rules of engagement are going to be dependent on what you're ultimately committed to, and your engagement in the process too, not just their engagement to your content, but your engagement, your emotional engagement, your energetic engagement, your quantitative engagement, meaning how often do you do the stuff? And when you do this stuff, how deep are you in it? How committed are you to it? Your engagement to your purpose and your mission is massively critical. That's going to attract people that can't look away, that can't ignore your passion. But you rarely can find passion in mechanics. So if you're trying to learn how to do X, Y, and Z on YouTube or on Instagram or sales pages, there's very rarely going to be passion in there. And when stuff hits the fan and things get tough, as it always will at some point, if you don't have the rooted passion that you got to get through this, then they will knock you off your path a lot easier, and it will take you longer to get back on the path versus somebody that's in it, that is a product of the transformation that they want to teach people. That's what almost all teachers need to do. And then you can start changing the game and start creating more engagement in your favor. The 3 ways to get people's attention, I think I've mentioned all of these: distinction, depth, and specificity. Be different, go deep, understand your topic, and be specific. So you have to be yourself, you have to understand your topic, and you have to understand them. That can only happen through repetition. That can only happen through motion. So, what's my final message to you? Way too many people are focused on quick success. They're focused on microwave money. Way too many people are searching for how to make money fast in coaching rather than how to be a good coach. Instead of how do I get value from people in the form of money, I want you to be more committed to how can I give more value to people. And when you're more committed to giving more value to people, and you give a damn about their experience of your content, and you're rooted in your conviction that people need to feel the way you feel, people need to learn the lessons that you've learned, when you're rooted in that and you give a damn about giving them value, they will give the value back to you in the form of engagement and in the form of dollars. And your business will feel like it's a part of you because you're in it. But if you build a business that doesn't have you in it, you're going to hate it, or the very least resent it, because it doesn't have you in it. So I don't want you to go searching for the things that are going to make you money. I want you to dive into the thing that lights you up and do that, because people can't ignore human passion. There's a lot less passion in this world than I think there should be. Most people have a lot less passion in their lives. They have a lot less joy in their lives than they want. So if I don't have a lot of passion in my life and I don't have a lot of joy in my life, I just want more of those things. And I see you lit on fire with passion and joy and talking about real shit and talking about being vulnerably human and being transparent and just giving me an experience, man. I want more of that. I can't look away from that because I want what I feel in you. But if you just get all in your intellect and try to get money out of me as fast as you possibly can and use all the sales tactics and try to intellectually succeed by achieving the goals that will satisfy your intellect but won't fulfill your heart, I'm going to feel that too. And that's going to repel me because I don't need any more of that stuff. I'm already in my head all the time. Don't try to satisfy people's intellect. Try to ignite people's spirit. And you all have something that's so freaking valuable. You're a human being that has lived human experiences and you've learned lessons from those experiences. That's your value. Because there's somebody out there right now that's looking for the lessons that are stuffed inside your head, and they're dying to learn them. Some of them literally. My message to you that I really want you to get is your value is found in you. Your value is not found in not you. Your value is not found in becoming somebody different. Your value is not found in selling like the salespeople. Your value is not found in speaking like the speakers do. Your value is not found in anything outside of your authenticity. Authenticity is the ticket. Your value is found inside of what you've learned that you're willing to teach people who are looking for it. And it probably won't be figured out intellectually by going through some kind of formula and by checking a bunch of boxes and by trying to achieve the things that this intellect wants to achieve. What you want to experience on this planet is impact. You want to experience making a difference. You want to experience feeling good about yourself. And you want other people to feel good about themselves too. If that's what you want, then act like it. If that's what you want, then use that as your fuel. And you can absolutely make a lot of money. My company has made $6 million or so. You can absolutely make a lot of money. You can do some amazing things. I've been around the globe speaking. I spoke in India and Greece and Costa Rica and Colombia and all over Canada and all over the United States. You can do some amazing things as a byproduct of following your passion. But if you don't tap into that passion and you're trying to compete against all the hired guns, you can't win. And even if you win, if your passion isn't in there, you lose. So commit to that thing that lights you up. Commit to that thing that you know you have to leave this world teaching. There's a message inside of you. There's something that you want that you know people need. That thing cannot die with you. It cannot die with you. That's your value. Be fueled by that and then learn the tactics, then learn what to do on top of that value. Now you've got something that can be so incredibly successful and massively fulfilling to you that you might not even be able to fathom right now what's possible, fueled by that level of connection. One of the things that I've developed over the 15 years that I've been doing this is the ability to pull out people's value. I was just on the phone with my business coach earlier today. We were talking about, all the things that I want to do. And I said, give me 60 minutes and answer 10 questions, and I will find your $1 million message. And I firmly believe it. Give me 60 minutes, answer 10 questions, and I'll find your $1 million message. And most people are trying to figure out what that message is. Figure out their signature story, that thing that's going to be so valuable, not only to others, but to themselves, to light themselves up. And you can't do that intellectually. Give me 60 minutes and I'll do it. That's what I've learned over all these years, that every single human has value and most of them dismiss it. They don't see it. When they see it, they're either afraid of it or they dismiss it because it's easy or because it scares the hell out of them. But for whatever reason, most of us are not diving into that thing that we were put on this planet for. Because we think the other things are safer. We think the other things will make us more money. Do the thing that you were put on this planet for, and then learn how to make a business out of that passion. Every single one of you has that ability because it can all be developed. There's nothing that's outside of you that needs to be added to you. This is about finding your value by diving into you, by being more of you, not by being less of you, not by protecting you, not by shading yourself from other people, by being more of you, by coming out of those shadows, by getting over the fear of being you, by getting over the fear of being seen as you and the judgment of other people for whatever they think you are and however they judge you. Once you get over that internal hurdle and you can fully live in your authenticity, you know how many people are searching for you? They're searching for that. But you know what a lot of them are waiting for? They're waiting for us to convince them that we have the body to lead them, that we've earned our stripes, that we've dealt with a lot of the things that they are now dealing with. And they will not feel our embodied leadership through our perfection. They will feel that through our humanity. They will not trust our accolades and our accomplishments. They will trust the lessons that we've learned from our failures way faster. And they will be willing to follow us, and they will be willing to pay for what it is that we can offer them if they know that we are real, that we can be trusted, and that we understand them. And then we can talk about marketing. You are enough. You have enough. People are searching for you. Go help them. If you could just live by that mantra, you'll do more work. People need our help. Cape up and clock in. Now, if you like this video, check out that video where I broke down the 4 critical elements you need to start a successful business in today's world. We're going to talk about the 4 elements of creating a successful coaching business. You'll never shortcut your way to success as a coach.